Hi.
Yeah.
It's Ian McCain backstage at Big Snow Show 13
Wow.
with grandson.
It's me. Hi.
First of all, congratulations on the brand new EP. It's called A Modern Tragedy Volume 1,
Thank you.
featuring Blood, Water, pretty much just one of the most massive, most important songs of 2018. You don't think that? You don't think that? I think so.
It's certainly changed my life in the last 12 months. So, and hopefully it's affected a couple people and gotten a message out of accountability and empowerment. And that was my intention, and so far we've accomplished that. So I'm happy.
Obviously, you're hitting the right nerves, right there. That's what it looks like by that. You're obviously hitting the right nerves, but how did you feel like when Tom Morello you found out he was going to remix Blood Water? Was that kind of an important thing for you?
It absolutely was. Obviously, I'm fortunate enough to I'm a music fan first and foremost. I don't think anybody that picks up a microphone for the first time or picks up a pen does so without being inspired by others, getting excited about something that made you feel something. I have always listened to music with a certain sense that it was a conversation. Ever since I can remember when I first heard music that touched me, my first instinct was to speak back in some way. It took me a lot of really bad songs and a bunch of years of writing songs before I could make songs that anybody gave a shit about. Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely.
That anybody gave a shit about. And those Rage records, those Audio Slave records that Tom was a part of, that was that moment for me. So to be able to talk to him and be sharing notes back and forth, it remains a really surreal
I was going to say, when you were like listening to that, obviously you said were you trying to emulate like Zach and stuff at that point, and then just trying to write songs like based on like what you were hearing, or was there a point where you would you found that like you could just do this on your own?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that when I first heard their music, and I remain feeling that way about a lot of bands that I grew up on, they're untouchable. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to be able to accomplish what they accomplished in the way that they accomplished it.
But don't think that. You're standing on the shoulder of giants at this point, right?
I think I learned a lot more about who I am from who I don't want to be and what I don't want to sound like than being able to point to any one particular project or artistic statement before me and going, well, I just want to emulate that as close as possible. It was more trying to just get my foot in the door as a songwriter, writing pop music, trying to make music that was really irreverent and about nothing. That really left a taste in my mouth so disgusting that it propelled me to want to fail at doing something that meant something to me, and now that thing is not sucking as much as I expected it to.
When you got signed, did you go into the studio and then you kind of knew exactly how you wanted to sound, but then you obviously are speaking to like some higher powers, like in their like management and the label and like maybe a big time producers basically saying you should sound like this, and you have to basically tell them yes or no, kind of at that point, right? Because we hear a lot of people say yes. You don't sound like everybody else.
I think that one of the things in 2018, 2019, I think that it's when I look at the relationship I have to the incredible team around me that have enabled me to do things in the past 6 months that I never thought I'd be able to do in my whole life. When I look at my relationship to them, I don't come to them to tell me who to be, what to sound like, what to do. I think it's more important to provide them something that feels real and feel honest and let them pour gasoline on the fire. But their job is not to start that. And frankly, I have no interest in doing what anybody tells me. That's not why I started doing this. If anything, this was running from a sense of authority that came with a 9 to 5. I just wanted to sing songs and get fucked up and play rock shows my whole life. But so in a lot of ways, in the creative process, in every single step of the way, I remain doing a lot of it the same way. Me and my collaborator, Boone, have been recording on the same $30 microphone. We record outside. We record in his living room. Like, we have, in some ways, very deliberately remained true to that thing that we were first chasing. And in other ways, in other areas, when we're trying to actually get that thing heard, that comes from as honest a place as possible. That's why you bring people in that have done this before, that know how to do it, and know how to do it on a big-ass scale, because I'm trying to get a lot of people to hear it. When you believe in a message, you want to get that message heard, so I try and make sure that there are places where I remain receptive and recognize my own limitations, but other places where I stand firm on trying to make something
I was
honest.
going to say, with the new EP, it sounds like you're writing from a specific point that sounds like it's deeply emotional. You're definitely idealistic when it comes to this. But at the same time, I think that you basically said, if I trigger people while doing this, I don't give a fuck.
Not only do I not give a fuck, but that's kind of the intention. I almost think that there's a spectrum in which, the more that people are going to resonate with something, the less they're going to resonate with something. I could make shit right here and make very agreeable music, but that does not sit with people the way that music sat with me in dark times in my life, in times where I needed someone or something to believe in. So for me, it was always implicit as I made music that I was going to get some people who felt differently from me. And I hope that I have found so far, at least, when I do meet people that don't share necessarily the same ideology as me, that we are able to break bread in a calm, rational place.
Right.
And I've learned a lot from people that have had situations and perspectives in their life that I never could imagine, who have different positions on what we should do about the epidemic of gun violence, about the inevitable shitstorm of climate change. People are entitled to feel differently. That's part of being an American. And my intention is not necessarily to silence anyone's voice, but rather to provide a source of power for the people that are out there doing what I also believe is right and just about these things that are fucking everybody up.
I was going to say that, Henry Rollins said, this is not, this is crazy times. He said, this is not the time to be dismayed. He said, this is the time that Joe Strummer has trained us for. Right. Where do you stand on the fact that you're kind of an individual voice out here, but we should be going through punk rock time?
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing that. You're one of the few people right now where I would think that people would be screaming from the rooftops.
Yeah.
First off,
I want to say shouts out the Fever 333, shouts out Youngblood, shouts out all the artists out there. I'm not alone on some silo making this kind of music. There are other alternative artists. There's also a lot of social justice, a lot of accountability, and making sense of a system that is rigged against many common Americans. A lot of that messaging has moved to hip-hop for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge fan of hip-hop. That's what I grew up on, actually. Mm-hmm. I came to rock and roll a bit of an outsider because of the time I spent listening to artists like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar and Eminem and Tupac. So I think that message is inherently rock and roll. It's punk. But when you look at the late 90s, the early 2000s, when you look at the intersection of rap and rock, when you look at artists like Wu-Tang Clan going on tour with Rage Against the Machine, you look at Public Enemy, you look at those messages are what was the common thread there. So there are artists, and there have always been and will always be artists that recognize that as long as there is injustice, there needs to be art. And whenever you look historically at fascism, at dictatorships, the first people they come for are the artists, are the people that are using their platforms to provide some sort of commentary. Some people use music for escapism. Some people get home from their long job and they want to put on something that transports them anywhere else. And I'm not here to tell any of those people they're wrong for doing so. That just didn't seem to be enough for me. I can't speak to what I think is right or wrong about anyone else that chooses to be a musician with their life, but all I can do is make an artistic inquiry. And when we're at a time with unprecedented access to music technology, where you can throw an 808 and go on Splice and get incredible sonic textures and make everything sound so expensive and all the bells and whistles, more than ever, can we strip all of that away and bang on a table and is it real? Is it honest? Can we remove everything, tell a story that speaks to whoever is telling it, and then from that place can we build on top of it and and speak to kids today in a language that they're speaking with one another in. I think that was what I tried to achieve with this first EP. I tried to make sure that every single song was about something that was important to me, that was real, whether it was a reflection on what's going on outside of me, some sort of political commentary, whether it's a commentary on my own personal struggles with mental health or relationships. I just wanted to start from there. Is it honest, or am I just feeding people bullshit? And if it's real, that's when I would go to Boone. That's when I would go to my team. That's when I go to my label and say, I think we got one. And then I let everybody do the thing that they are as passionate in that I am about, writing it and singing it.
So will you ever include twerking into any music video?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe one day in a bout of sarcasm or trying to provide some commentary on like the nothingness that is pervasive. I didn't come here with a hashtag or a meme or a dance, and all the more of a testament, though, that these kids, like, they're smarter than that. And
right.
I think a lot of people think that to speak to millennials, you got to dab on them or whatever. But
right,
no,
exactly.
like, I get to, when I go on tour and I talk to these kids, a lot of my fans are, like, between the ages of 14 and 25. These people are not, they don't appreciate being patronized. They don't appreciate your condescending tone when you assume that they have this short attention span or whatever. They have an unprecedented amount of access to information, transparency with the political process, and a lot of them are pretty pissed off these days, and they're not yet in power, but they're going to be. But we're going to be. These grandkids are coming, and everybody can choose to ignore that and continue to provide these meaningless bops for their fucking ears. But what I came here to do is talk about real shit and use my live space as a community-building point of catharsis where together we can break this thing down to build it back up. And all that I've been able to accomplish thus far has been because people like you guys at the station give a fuck and care enough to give it a chance. And then these kids are saying that's what we are here to do.
Definitely, like I said, it's one of the best songs that I've heard, all year long. It was just, when I first heard that, I was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is, like, I've been waiting for this. So cool. I mean, and by the way, you mentioned all of those other artists. Yes, but it's just a small amount is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are other artists out there that have actually done this, like Chris Novoselic from Nirvana, also Peter Garrett from Midnight Oil. These guys have used their platform musically and have transferred into actually being in public office. I know that, like, Chris was a state senator for the state of for Washington, and then Peter Garrett was in the national. He was like a national senator for Australia. Would you ever think that you would run for public office?
That's certainly not my intention. I just turned 25, and I got a lot of shit online that would throw me under the bus. There are some very incriminating photos and videos out there that I'm not necessarily proud of. I guess I'm proud of because I had to do them to get here, but they would resurface. I guess the point is, for me, that's not my intention. This thing is not like a political campaign for me. I don't have the answers. I have opinions, and I think that a lot of artists do. I'm using this thing to add some sort of commentary, but I don't know what the fucking answers are either. I'm really just trying to go to people in these spaces that have chosen to roll up their sleeves and get involved in being a force for change, a force for good, and trying to give them a soundtrack, trying to give them a place of understanding, going, hey, you're not alone. I'm over here, and I feel a lot of these things too. That being said, I think it's really, really important for me over the next couple of years, which is why when I have the chance to put it on video so that I can be held accountable, my intention is to not just be existing in your headphones. From the very beginning, we have been going, can we and how will we take these messages of empowerment, of agency, and get off of people's headphones and into the streets? So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be unrolling a series of initiatives through this platform I started called XX Resistance. My intention is to actively provide young people with a voice and create active change and raise a whole bunch of money for people that are doing the work in activism and community organizing. So that's my intention with one EP out. just at the very beginning of what's going to be a long journey ahead. My intention is to make change, and that's what we're fucking doing. Because if you believe it, and if you have the balls to vocalize it, then it can and will happen.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing.
Me too.
Can't wait to see you at Big Snow Show tonight, and then back in Milwaukee very soon, dude.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've been shown a lot of love. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of that pool.
It'll happen.
Y'all Google what I'm talking about. But for real, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of that pool. So I gotta come back a couple of times before I get there. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys taking a chance on an artist like myself. It means a lot to me. And keep supporting real alternative music. It's alive. And if you don't feel understood, sitting wherever you are sitting listening to this, if you don't feel like any of this music's speaking to you yet, and you're looking for something that feels honest, then put on your headphones. There's room for one more grandkid. Let's do this shit.
Let's do it. Thanks.